Southwest Airline has a brand new policy for plus size passengers, and everyone is talking about, hey, maybe they're finally no longer giving away free seats to fat people. That's not exactly what the change of policy is. So let's go over what this change is. And first, let's talk about the old policy. So this is in effect until January 25th or 27th, 2026. So the old policy, which still stands today, is flexible seating, first of all. So if you go to a Southwest counter and you want to purchase 2 seats because you can't fit into one, a lot of times they'll give you that second seat free of charge. And Southwest has been known for a long time to be one of the more accommodating airlines for plus size passengers. So they will often give you that second free seat regardless of, other contingencies. And they've been very refund friendly. So let's say you are booking online and you book a second seat because you can't fit into one seat. Usually they will just automatically refund you after the flight, regardless of whether the flight was sold out, regardless of fare class, regardless of any sort of refund submission timing. However, as of 2026 in January, this is going to coincide with the new assigned seating policy that Southwest is ushering in because, up until now, Southwest has been known to be the airline that doesn't do required seating or assigned seating. So now there's a mandatory upfront purchase. So you must purchase 2 adjacent seats if you cannot fit into one airline seat. And this must be at the time of booking. And so now there are refund conditions. So refunds for the extra seat are no longer guaranteed, and they will only be issued if 3 things are true. Number 1, the flight had at least 1 open seat at departure. Number 2, both seats were purchased in the same fare class. And number 3, the refund request must be submitted within 90 days of travel. Okay, and also there are no airport extras. Unlike before, travelers cannot ask for an additional seat at the airport without paying or risk being rebooked if the flight is full. So let's take a look at this headline. Southwest rolls out new conditions for plus-size passenger refunds. This is from Fox Business. The subhead is new rules require customers of size, just say fat people, to purchase additional seats before travel starting January 27th. And so it explains what the changes are. And there's a quote from Jeff Jenkins, founder of plus-size travel blog Chubby Diaries, told USA Today, "I just hope that consumers are aware of this change, and I wonder if plus-size people will skip out on flying with them at all because of them not knowing if the flight is sold out or not. It's just more anxiety to an already high anxiety experience." And then Southwest Airlines said in a statement to Fox Business, "We are updating many policies as we prepare our operation, employees, and customers for assigned seating on January 27, 2026. To ensure space, we are communicating to customers who have previously used the extra seat policy, they should purchase it at booking." So of course, you have these plus size bloggers and all of the TikTokers who love to make content about flying as a fat person. They're all saying this is so mean. It's so mean. How could you make us purchase a second seat? And it already adds to this anxiety that we have while flying. Here's my hot take. Let me say something. And I know people are going to, of course, take this the wrong way, but you should have high anxiety flying when you weigh 400 pounds. It should not be comfortable. It should not be easy. It should not be a seamless operation to fly on a plane, to ride in a car and do these basic things in normal civilized society if you weigh 450 pounds. I'm sorry, just like it should not be a normal, acceptable thing in civilized society for an alcoholic to show up drunk somewhere or for a drug addict to display his drug addiction on the public streets. You should feel a level of shame and you should feel uncomfortable when you are that morbidly obese and you're functioning in normal civilized society. And that's not because we hate you or because we don't value you as human beings. That's because you are harming yourself with this incredibly unhealthy lifestyle. You're putting a burden on the healthcare system that affects everybody. It affects even people's insurance premiums. You're a burden on society. And it sounds harsh at first, but we should not transform a normal civilized society and change our ways so that we can accommodate people who are morbidly obese. Just like we should not change our ways to accommodate gambling addicts or drug addicts or alcoholics or prostitutes. These are all addictions and activities that should not be celebrated and normalized. And you can call me mean all you want, but that is actually the compassionate approach. Why? Because I care about people. And I care about people's health. And I do not want morbidly obese people to think that it's okay to be morbidly obese, to think that they don't have to change their lifestyle. They don't have to change their diet. They don't have to change anything about themselves because they're just perfect. And society is the one that should change themselves in order to accommodate and cater to morbidly obese people. Now, again, don't listen to what I'm not saying. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we need to be cruel and treat them like animals and be incredibly mean to them and completely shun them from society, because you'll often hear the response, what? You don't think I deserve to fly? I deserve to fly just like anybody else, even if I'm morbidly obese. Nobody's saying you can't fly, girly pop. Go ahead, fly, get on a plane. But you need to purchase a second seat. There should be normal, healthy consequences for being morbidly obese. Just like there should be normal consequences for being a drug addict or an alcoholic. And people say, well, what if somebody is sick? What if somebody is really, really sick? And I know they like to take some doctors, they'll interview some doctor who's paid off to say, there are some diseases out there that result in people being 400 pounds and 200 pounds overweight. Of course, there are going to be some illnesses or diseases that cause a certain amount of weight gain. But you will never, ever be able to convince me that there are diseases out there that make you 500 pounds. I'm sorry, but no, if that were the case, then where are all the 500-pound people in the rest of human history whose obesity was caused by these diseases? We have to finally be honest and say that people's lifestyle and their addiction to ultra-processed food has resulted in a huge spike in morbid obesity rates in this country. As of 2025, the last statistic I saw is that 45% of American adults are obese. You guys, that's crazy. So essentially half of American adults in this country are obese, not just overweight, because the last statistic that I heard, this might have been like 15 years ago, it was about 32% of adults are obese and 70% were overweight. So now you have almost half of American adults that are obese. This is unacceptable, and nobody should want to live in a society that is okay with this. Nobody should want to live in a society that accepts this and tries to accommodate for this. And I know people are like, oh, you're so mean. You just hate fat people. No, I don't. You know what? My work is devoted to helping people who are overweight. I actually work with obese people pretty much every day. That's what I've been doing for a decade now. I do weight loss coaching. I do health and fitness coaching. My work is dedicated to helping people get healthy. And I've helped hundreds of women lose excess weight, whether they were overweight or obese, because I don't want people to suffer from the diseases and the illnesses and the premature death that comes along with a long period of time that you're obese. Obesity-related illnesses are the leading causes of death in this country. And it's time that we stop tiptoeing around that. And if we actually cared about these people, we would be honest and we would stop accommodating them at every single turn and giving them free shit. You're getting a free seat on an airline because you can't stop stuffing your face with pizza and Debbie cakes. I'm sorry, but I don't want to live in a society that just accepts this. And the thing about American society is that the rest of the world laughs at us. They look at us and our addiction to ultra-processed food and the way that people grocery shop and the way that they put their grocery haul online and our obesity rates, and they laugh at us. We are the laughing stock of the world. And that should make you feel icky. That's embarrassing. Like, it is embarrassing that half of American adults are obese. And I know that people say, well, don't shame them. You should never shame somebody. I'm not saying that we should go around being mean and shaming people, but I am saying that shame is a very useful feeling. When we are doing something that is wrong, when we are doing something that affects ourselves and our loved ones in a bad way, we should feel shame for that. And I think that there should be a healthy amount of shame for being morbidly obese, just like any other major addiction that people struggle with. And I do want to live in a society that recognizes that our society is a living organism. And I know for those of you who watched my channel before, you know I like to talk about Edmund Burke, who was known to be the sort of godfather of conservative political philosophy. And he wrote extensively about how a society is a living organism, which means that when one part of society starts to decay away and starts to fall away, it affects the rest of the organism. So if you have an arm that is rotting away, if you have a leg that is rotting away, that is going to affect the rest of your body. So if we are totally comfortable with allowing 45% of the country to be morbidly obese, that of course is going to affect the rest of our society and the rest of our culture in many, many ways, in countless ways. One of which, a major way, is by putting major stress on the medical system and spiking up insurance premiums. And even more than that, even more than the sort of medical and economic perspective of how obesity affects America, just the moral soul of our country is so rotten that we think it's okay for half of our country to eat themselves to death, essentially. I don't want to live in a country that just accepts that blindly and is like, well, live and let live. Live and let live. You do you, boo. You can sit at home and be 500 pounds like the whale and eat yourself into oblivion because it doesn't affect me, right? I think that's such an incredibly toxic and selfish way to live in this country. And that's one of the reasons why American culture is in such decline, because we've accepted this radically liberal live and let live philosophy that essentially is like, well, if it's not affecting me, then I don't care. I don't care if it's not affecting me. And so you also see this sort of toxic philosophy on both sides. So for example, this, potentially new mayor of New York City, he's openly communist. And then you see a lot of right wingers, some people in the South, they're like, I don't care what happens in New York City. That city's so stupid. I don't care what happens in LA or San Francisco or New York City. You should care. Okay? I'm not saying that you need to go and protest in New York City, but how about we care about what happens in the rest of our country? Because if a major American city like New York City decays away to communism, you don't think that's going to trickle down and affect the rest of our country? You're crazy if you don't think it's going to affect the rest of us. Just like you are crazy if you don't think that morbid obesity that is plaguing half of American adults is going to affect the rest of the country. And I do have compassion for people who are struggling with their weight. I know there are a lot of factors. It's not only what you put into your mouth. Of course, there are things like environmental toxins and endocrine disruptors and horrible quality of food. And then there's, of course, emotional stress. All of these factors matter. However, that doesn't mean that you can't change your situation. You can absolutely change your situation. You can clean up your lifestyle and you can take control of the things that you can take control of. And I think it's perfectly reasonable for us to teach people that there are many things that are in your control. So let's start by controlling those things. The thing about obesity is this: it is curable. It is reversible. And I think that is the good news. I don't think this has to end on a note of like, we're doomed. You can't do anything about obesity. The good news is you can lose weight. You can reverse obesity. I help people do it every day. And sure, some cases are more complex and some cases are more difficult, but 95%, let's say, the vast, vast majority of these obesity cases can be reversed through diet and lifestyle. And just that alone can reverse a lot of these obesity cases. So I'm sure that this is going to make some people mad, but I want to live in a world where people are healthier and encouraged to be healthier. So don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. I'm sure many of you will be in disagreement, let's just say. But let me know if there's something you want me to cover in the next video, and we'll see you guys. Bye.